Hello and welcome back to our How to Paint series. Today we're going to be looking at the Gravis Captain, I believe is the rank he is. This guy is part of our Dark Angels Combat Patrol, and we're just going to be kind of starting out with that. We have already done a nice layer of our, I think it's Vallejo surface primer. It's technically meant for an airbrush, so it looks a little bit patchy going on, but it looks fine once it's actually covered. And just to help with that, we're going to be applying a base layer of Abaddon Black. If I can shake this up a little bit and hopefully not peak the microphone. Doesn't look like we did. Perfect. Unfortunately, this Abaddon Black is actually starting to run dry a little bit. I think I have another can of it sitting around somewhere, or another pot of it rather. And just getting a little bit on our brush. It is already nice and thinned because I applied a little bit of water already. And just making sure we kind of keep a decent amount on our brush. We don't want to overflow it. We're going to go ahead and start applying it very liberally to our model here. You can see it's just a little bit kind of opaque, I think is the right word for it. A little see-through. That's perfect. That means it's not too thick. If we were really pedantic about it, we could even go back and do a second layer. But because this is just kind of our undercoat, and a nice shading layer, we're not going to worry too much about it. We are, however, going to be a little bit careful if we can. I don't want to paint his cape or his coat or whatever you want to call it. I don't want that being black because we are going to be doing, I think, Xandri dust. I'm torn between that and like the Rekarth flesh, and you can see I'm already getting it a little bit. That's fine. And those are very bright layers or colors, so I don't want to kind of have to do so many layers with that while I'm trying to fix up, my mistakes here. So we're going to do the best we can with not getting it on any of the fabric materials, but we will get it everywhere else as best we can. And I think I'm a little bit torn between what color I kind of want to do his weapons. Traditionally, for my Dark Angels, I like doing I do like a corn red, or any type of red really works. I do the same thing with Ultramarines, and I'm kind of debating it for this guy. I think maybe I might just keep it black. We'll kind of see how I'm feeling once we get there. But I think in contrast of the green, the dark green that Dark Angels are, red generally looks pretty nice. It does give a little bit of a Christmas vibe, but that's fine. That's kind of how I like my guys to look. So I think we'll probably stick with that. And I also am able to do a little bit of dry brushing with that. I think I have a red somewhere. If not, we'll just kind of make it work. I was actually looking on Amazon for more dry brush paints, and I found there was a pretty decent deal on the Fanatic line from Army Painter, which I don't know whether it's just like my search history or what, but every Reddit post I see in like mini painting forums tells me that the Fanatic paints are just absolutely great. So it's something I want to pick up. Probably won't be anytime soon because it's like $160, I think. But man, it is definitely on my wish list. It's going to be in my cart for a while. And hopefully once I do manage to get it, we can do some pretty fun stuff. I think it's like 40-something base layers, or base colors. I think there's 4 metallics. There was a couple of skin tones. And also some terrain paint, or texture paint, I think is what they called it. Which honestly all of them look pretty great to me. I don't know what I'd use some of the brighter colors for, like there was a pink and a purple, but it'll be cool to have. just kind of expand my arsenal of paints here. So I think that's kind of going to be my next big purchase. That's not models. First and foremost, I do want to get some bigger armies. And I do also have some Tyranids coming in the mail. Games Workshop has their learn to paint packs that you can buy now, which are really nice. I think it's a great little thing they do. It comes with 3 units and all of the paints you need for them, if you're just doing the box art at least. And I got the Tyranid one. I also at one point got the Stormcast one. It came with, I think, a couple of Vindicators is what they're called. And of course, like the 4 different colors you need for them. 2 of which are just gold and silver. The Stormcasts have such a simple color scheme, but man, I absolutely love painting them. I think they're fantastic. I also have a couple of their models that I just haven't touched yet. They're like the big Griffin models, and I'm just kind of terrified too. Like it's gonna be a huge project when I do them. But I think that's kind of the first thing I'll do with the Fanatic line once I get that. Just give us a reason to use some of those brighter colors, I think. And we want to do the very best we can to kind of get these little shadowed areas back here. Forgive my terrible use of the English language. I promise it is my first language. I just don't have a mastery over it. I don't know if I already mentioned it. Space Marine 2 comes out in a couple days. I mentioned it in the past, I'm sure, but I don't know if I talked about it this video yet. I think I've been talking about paint mostly. But man, I am so excited. I bought like the $100 crazy special edition thing just to get the early access. And I think like the edition below that was like $90 or something. And I figured, why not just spend $10 more dollars? I'm already, getting pretty invested in it. I'm actually pre-ordering a game, which I try to avoid as much as possible. So I figured I'd go full hog. But I think that comes out on the 5th. It is currently the 3rd while I'm recording this, so trust me when I say very hype. Absolutely very hype. But we have finished, I think for the most part, our undercoat here. There is just one tiny little piece I still need to get, if I can get just a tiny little bit of paint on my brush here. I just missed this back of the leg is all. And it might look like my paint is really chunky there. It's just wet. Like there's a lot of water. I didn't properly get off my brush there, so don't worry about that. It's not gonna look horrible, like it's too thick or anything. It's just too wet. So I'm gonna dry off my brush a little bit before we switch to our next color, and hopefully not peak any audio while I do this. And we're going to be doing the kind of cape and that little sash across this shoulder. We're going to be doing that with our Gravis, just because it's I don't want to leave it just primed. I do want to do a base coat, or an undercoat rather. And Gravis is light enough that it'll kind of let us do some decent layers on top of it without having to do it too many times, because it is lighter, of course. And we're just going to try to generally apply this as well as we can without touching any of the black. And it's a little bit thin, so I'm going to try to rectify that. And we don't have to be perfect about this. I just want to get as much coverage as I kind of can. And there's some weird spots that are hard to reach. I'll do my best though. We'll be starting with our... Oh, maybe. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this, whether we want to start with our light colors and just be careful with our dark colors. I think that's probably going to be the best course of action, right? Because we need to do like under the cape and everything, and that's kind of annoying. I actually wanted to do this separate as a sub-assembly, but the way that the shoulder pads are, you really have to put the cape on before you do the shoulder pads, which is kind of annoying. Like I get why they did it that way. It helps keep it all in place, but man, I would have rather done this as a sub-assembly. It would have looked, actually, I'm not going to say it looked, or it would look nicer. It would just be much easier to do. And there we are, just a very quick little run through. Nothing too crazy, just kind of the cleanest we can in a timely manner. Perfect. And now we're going to be moving on, to our next layer. This is going to be our main base coat for the cape. And I'm kind of debating on whether I want to do this color or a little bit lighter, but we'll try this first, and if it doesn't work out, we'll kind of lighten it as we go. This is going to be our Xandri dust, and I'll give it a little bit of a shake. It's been a minute since I've used this, so it's kind of separating in the pot a little bit. That's fine. Nothing too crazy to deal with. If you have a vortex paint shaker, I think they're called. Maybe it's called a centrifuge. I'm not sure. I bought it on Amazon like a long time ago, and it is in a box somewhere, I'm sure. But they're really good for mixing up your paints, especially once they get like really separated. And you can find them for kind of cheap. I lucked out. The cheapest one I found was like 20 bucks. They can get kind of pricey though, so that's kind of something to look at. And we're just gonna go ahead. Oh, we're definitely gonna do this lighter. This, once it dries, maybe it'll look fine. But generally, I'm not liking the look of this already. And it's kind of difficult to get underneath that little ammo belt there. We will apply this though. Well, we might even do a second layer of it just to get full coverage. But I can tell you right now, I'm already not liking how it looks. Maybe some dry brushing will help with that. We can do some like rack white or something, just to brighten it up a little bit. And the toughest part, I don't know if you'll be able to really see it, is getting right back behind that cape. Super annoying. I really would have rather done a sub-assembly. And also, as best as we can, you kind of really got to finagle your brush in here, unfortunately. Thankfully, I'm using a pretty wrecked brush already, so I don't have to worry about it. But if you're using like a really nice, expensive brush and you don't want to, ruin it, maybe don't do this, because I am just forcing it in there. Not great. And it's kind of a sin to do this while it's still drying, but it's going to look fine, don't worry. Perfect. So that's our first layer. We will be doing another one, I promise. Just kind of clean my brush off a little bit here as we let this dry. Now, the nice thing about using thinner layers is that it dries very quickly, and you can actually kind of see it happening. So we'll give that a few seconds, and we'll... Actually, I missed a spot. Oh no. I always miss something. I'll get most of the water off our brush here, and we'll go right back in. I missed that little sash area on top of his shoulder. I should have been much more observant when I did this. We're kind of being really sloppy with this. That's fine. It's all going to get covered up anyway with our Caliban green. So we can kind of make as much of a mess now as we want. It's going to be the next few layers that are really going to have to be pretty careful. And we will go right back over this. Again, just try to get those areas we missed last time. And you can kind of already see it's starting to look a little better. I'm still going to do some dry brushing on it, but I think the color is kind of sitting with me a little bit better now. My only concern is how I'm going to do this rock in the front. I managed to do the base. I have a whole video on doing bases now. It's very quick. It's only like 6 minutes, but it essentially tells you how to do the sand base. I think it's Pro Acrylic, I think is who makes it. They do like this awesome diorama texture paint kind of thing. Makes it very easy to do that. And then you just use a wash on top of it. And it gives you really quick and easy to make bases. It's very nice. I've done a couple of them now. I did my Dreadnought using that style, and it just looks amazing. I'm really glad with how it came out. But we're going to be moving on to our kind of other main layer here, and that's going to be our Caliban green. And this is the one we're going to be a little bit careful about. So I'm going to use a bigger brush for all these areas kind of farther away from the cape, but once we get close to it, I am going to switch to our smaller brush. We'll just set that over there for now, and again, Caliban green. We are going to be getting a ton of use out of this as we go along with our combat patrol. And let's pop this open. I am kind of debating how I want to do the rest of it. So I think for like every different unit we'll have, I'll do like a separate video for. but that still leaves us like with 10 or so units afterwards, maybe a little bit more, as we have to do like the rest of the squads and stuff. So I think I'm gonna do like a how-to for each of them, and then for the final like remaining guys, I'll just do like one big batch playlist where all we do is just paint, and I don't like explain anything. We just kind of make it focused on maybe like we'll talk about like lore or like some of the Warhammer games or something. I'll be able to talk about Space Marine 2 and my absolute fangirling over it. So stay tuned for that. If that's something that kind of interests you, maybe check that out. That'll be coming in the next couple weeks maybe. once we get everything all done and painted up. And again, just very liberally, kind of all over, we're going to be applying this. Be a little bit careful around that cape, but generally you don't have to worry too much. The only issue is getting in kind of around all of these wires and cords. It's very awkward to reach some of these little spots. And get the back of the neck with this backpack here. Try to keep it on camera as best as I can. One thing I am very excited for with this specific build is the servo skull. I've only had like one model before that had it, and unfortunately it was like when I was first learning how to assemble these guys. So fortunately I broke it, and I don't even remember what model it was other than it was a Space Marine. So I'm really sad. I don't know what happened to it. So I'm excited to do it now, to make up for my past failures. And I know it's going to switch to a smaller brush, but I've already kind of thrown that out the window. I think we can kind of get away with this for the most part. And we'll come back over some of the dried areas as best as we can. And the last little spot I think we need to get is back behind this little boot here, if I can reach it. Perfect. And also the back of this boot. Thankfully I spotted it before I moved on. Awesome. And this is coming together much quicker than I actually thought it would. We've managed kind of all of the base areas and whatnot in the first video, and I think that's kind of a record. I did save us a little bit of time though by pre-priming everything, so there is that. We'll kind of factor that into our speed here. And I can't really see the underside of the arm, but I am just going to brush all of it just in case, because I'm sure from another angle I'll be able to spot it, and it'll look terrible if I don't get it. And I'll kind of come around and do a little bit of cleanup off camera, but for the most part this is a good solid foundation for what we're going to do. Next time we'll be starting off with some of these smaller details. We'll be doing the sword, I think that's a storm bolter or like a heavy bolter. I don't know what you technically call that. And then we'll start on like the servo skull and stuff, which I'm really excited for. So if you have any interest in that, join me next time. If you want to support this channel, I always appreciate likes and comments, especially comments. It really helps me kind of get feedback and tells me how I'm doing in the eyes of you guys, which is what matters to me, right? That we're doing good videos and that you guys are enjoying it. I also have a Patreon. Link will be in the description if you want to help me out that way. Just kind of helps me put out more videos more often. So if this is something you enjoy and you want to see more of it, maybe consider that. Otherwise, I thank you guys very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.